Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in once again to the channel. And in today's episode we're going to be going over routing and controllers in Laravel. So we left off last week on how to install Laravel on your computer locally on your local environment, and today we're going to be going over the routing and controllers. So the first thing about Laravel routing and controllers is you need to understand a little bit of how an MVC works. And what is an MVC, Andre? So we don't understand exactly what this term means. So what it means basically is you have a model, a view, and a controller. The model represents an individual table in the database. So basically think of this as any table you can create, sort of like a company, a blog post, a page. You can have tasks, whatever you're trying to accomplish in the database, you can represent it in the model. The view represents the template that's going to output this data to the end user. So that's what your end user is going to see whenever they get to your website or application. And the controller is pretty much, think of it like a cop. So basically it directs the traffic, it takes HTTP requests, it gets all the data, it validates the input, it sends back responses, and in the middle there is middleware, so there may be more things going on. So it's think of it as a traffic director, as a traffic cop sort of thing. So this represents more exactly how this is going to be doing, how an MVC is going to work in Laravel. So basically you have the user sends a request into the controller interacts with the model interacts with the database, and then it sends it back to the controller then sends whatever response back to the view where your user is going to see it again. And some of the verbs that we have available for browsers are get, for your request a resource, the head, ask for headers only version of get, post creates a resource, put overwrites a resource, patch modify a resource, delete deletes a resource, and options gives you like an option of all that URL that you're trying to look at. So it'll tell you exactly what options or what verbs this URL has, depending on what URL you're using. Most of the time you're going to be using get, post, put, patch, and delete. So you're not going to be using head and options that much, and maybe you use put and patch. But basically this is what allows us to get a resource, like get views, get data, get API data. So if you're working on some kind of JavaScript front-end framework, you can get data like this, or just plain vanilla JavaScript for that matter. You can get data with the get request. A post request is mainly for you to create any kind of resource. So it's just what it says. Put, overwrite, so more like an update, and then delete. Obviously, you're gonna be deleting and destroying this data. Some of the Laravel routing specifics that we can look at include, obviously, we already went over the HTTP verbs, but that translates over into Laravel. And we're going to be talking mostly about the web.php file. There's also console.php. There's also API.php and channel.php. We're going to get more into that in later episodes of this series. But for now, we're going to focus our efforts on the web.php. And that's basically if you have an application where you're going to be having views and you're going to be returning some kind of data in those views, and also you're going to be, everything lives within the application. An API is mostly if you're going to use it from the outside, you will create an API.php, and actually that comes right with Laravel, so you don't need to create it. But basically this one is what's going to allow you to just show stuff to your end user. And some of the route handling that Laravel has is you can pass the controller class and the method in your route. So you can do something like get welcome controller. And I'm going to show you an example that I have over here. This is our welcome page that we're working on our playground project. And basically this has a view that is returning this view welcome. This welcome, you're gonna find it inside of resources, views, and that's this view right here. So resources, views, that's already mapped in web.php. So Laravel already understands through this view helper here that welcome, it's gonna be this welcome over here in resources, views. And you can create as many as you want. So you can create one and call it home, for example. And we're gonna get into Blade in the next episode, but basically you can do either home.php or home.blade.php. Home.php, obviously you're gonna have to use this. You're gonna have to use things like PHP echo or a short syntax. With Blade, you have brackets, so you have more of a syntactic sugar that you can use, some magic methods, and I call it magic. They're not really magic methods, but this basically gives you power. I like to think of it like that. So basically it just makes your life easier and you don't have to use PHP so much for your templates. So Blade, it's a good idea, but you don't necessarily have to use Blade if you don't want to. So you can use it both and it'll understand it right here inside of Laravel, either Blade.php or PHP. And this is one way to pass a route and to start a route right here. Another way, like I was just showing you, is to go right here to do it like this: route, get, and then whatever you're trying to do, this is the URL you're trying to pass. You can make it whatever you want. And then welcome controller.index. So this will be the same thing as what I'm doing right here inside of this project right here. So inside of the playground project. If I had something like a controller that was a welcome controller right here on where their controllers are, so you're gonna find that inside app HTTP controllers, you can do something like welcome controller .php and then name it over here. Probably just piggyback out of this one. Let's do welcome controller, and we'll just call the index. And this index not gonna have a request right here. This is more of a injection that we have with Laravel. I'll get into that in a little bit. But basically you can return, this is actually returning JSON, but I can just return what I'm doing right here inside of the web.php. This right here, I can just do the same thing right here, and both are valid. You can use it both ways. Now a good idea is to always do it inside of a controller method, because that'll allow you to add caching. So Laravel will add caching if you have it inside of a file inside of the controller. If you have it as a closure right here, it will not. So it's always a good idea to do it like this. If you're doing something small like an example or something, it's okay to do it like this. But basically what I'm trying to get to is you can do welcome controller at index. And basically this right here, it's pointing into this controller, the welcome controller right here. So again, just like the views, this is already mapped inside of Laravel. So you only need to name them right here. Just add them inside of your controllers, and then Laravel automatically knows that you can add it when you add it into your web.php or API or whatever router file you're trying to add. Then it's gonna know exactly what it's talking about. So welcome controller at index, it knows that you're talking about this right here. And maybe change this right here. We're not actually doing that. We're returning something else. And I always like to keep my stuff really neat and clean. Nice. So basically that should give us the same effect that we had before, where we had inside of this playground project, you see. So it's the same thing. Like right now, if you go to this welcome.blade.php, I'm doing this go to post right here, and I'm gonna get to this in a little bit, but basically that's what I'm trying to show, and that's what's showing right here. And it's coming from the welcome controller that is right here. So it's basically the same thing as me doing this. You can do it both ways. Like I said, if you're doing something small, it's okay to do it like that, but always it's better convention to do it like this. and better for your caching. So if you're trying to cache, if you're going to use route cache, definitely do it over here. And if you're going to be using route cache with PHP Artisan, I will get into this in a little bit, but basically if you're going to use it, make sure that you use it in production. You don't want to use it in your local or your staging environment, because you can get confused. Because when you use PHP Artisan route cache, basically what it's doing, it's caching all your routes. And if you're changing your controller, if you're changing something in your routes, it's not going to know that you changed it. It's going to give you the cache route. So only do it in production, and do it as a hook as a post hook whenever you run, you change the code and you updated something in production, and there you just have your post hook after you run git. So basically it'll run after that, so that it'll clear this cache from your routes, and this will save you time. If you're into really like getting a fast application out there, then that definitely is going to help a lot. So it's PHP Artisan route cache. So it looks something like this: PHP Artisan route cache. And that's going to cache all your routes. So like I said, do it in production. Don't do it anywhere else, because you may get confused. You may start working on something and then you're not sure why it's not working, and then you realize, oh, that's why. So I'm going to continue talking about some of the routing and controllers in Laravel. This is probably going to go a few videos. So in the next video, I'm actually going to be going over exactly how you can do these route names, how you can add these route names over here, and more of a resource controller, and some more of the route verbs that we have for Laravel.